Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again this year to present at Energy and Mind. Very nice to see you all. I'd like to present you a case study on a project we did recently in Argentina. And prior to that, I'll just summarize what we're up to in hybrid power globally and just give you an update on the Raglanman project that has been in operation since 2014 with wind in a mining environment. This map is showing some of the projects that we've been doing in recent years in hybrid power. The point is to show that in terms of mining operations globally, lots of projects, potential projects, integrating wind and solar and biomass and various technologies to bring alternative energy solutions to mining. Hatch have been involved in all these studies. It is very difficult to make the business case for these projects. It's getting more and more toward borderline as opposed to a few years where it was maybe more difficult. Price of renewables are going down, and so the business cases are getting better. But certainly we're not today more discussing about is it feasible or not to do some of these projects. We're more about being innovative enough to make them work financially. This type of projects that we're doing everywhere helps us to understand the challenges to integrate alternative energy in remote mining, from doing projects in very hot environments, very cold environment, in sandy areas like in Mauritania with solar panels getting dirty. We are working with all type of processes in the mine, lead, nickel, gold, lithium, which are all different processes you don't want to mess with when you start integrating a variable type of energy in the energy mix at the mine. So what we do look at hybrid power projects with wind, solar, biomass, energy storage, battery flywheels, flow batteries, hydrogen. We're looking at alternative vehicles which are becoming electrical, change the load profile at the mine, which favors the integration of more renewable power. You've got to look at the projects, at the opportunities globally, not just by adding one features, but looking at the mine of tomorrow. How do you look at energy in a different fashion at your mine? So looking at low carbon solutions, we're very focused on new technologies, innovations, which helps bringing to the mine the most advanced solutions. So we developed the project, its business case, we perform the feasibility of the project, and we evaluate the impact on mine operations. So that's certainly one of our strengths. We've got very capable people in energy, but also very strong people in mining. And those two teams working together allows us to really understand what is involved to integrate alternative solutions in a mining environment. We support the projects from beginning to end, support the project financing, grant application, stakeholder discussions, PPA negotiations. To be successful to a project, you work 2 or 3 years on a project. The engineering is 6 months. Everything else is a lot of work, a lot of discussion, a lot of preaching, and a lot of stakeholders engagement. Succeeding in a project is not just doing the engineering. It's to work all different angles to make it happen. And so finally, we implement the project, and once it's in operation, we look at optimizing its operation. So at Raglan Mine, we've got this project where we have installed the 3 megawatt wind turbine at the mine on a load of 16 megawatt. It's in operation since 2014. We've displaced 9 million liters of diesel so far. Wind power is certainly a different beast than solar. Wind varies very wildly. A wind turbine can stop at any time without telling you why. It just stops and it restarts within seconds. but on a small grid, losing 3 megawatt of power, just like that, it has a severe impact. The project has been very good, and we're in phase 2 right now in construction, adding a second 3 megawatt wind turbines, and this time we are adding a 3 megawatt lithium-ion battery. The first phase was to review the different energy technology, batteries, flywheel, hydrogen. We tested that at the site, and you see the image here all being installed. And we learned a lot of things from this project, in particular that water and hydrogen doesn't like cold. And this is a cold environment, minus 40, and any process that involves water, hydrogen is not the place for Arctic. But on a serious note, which is a serious note actually because we had so many problems with the hydrogen, hydrogen has a round-trip efficiency of 30%. So certainly not a good business case. With a battery with 95% and up in terms of round-trip efficiency, you're not comparing the same type of applications. But hydrogen is very good in storing energy, large amount of energy. So I would recommend hydrogen for power to gas. You know, you take your excess of renewable power to make hydrogen, and you convert the hydrogen. You send the hydrogen to a pipeline, or you use the hydrogen as a fuel for vehicle. That's the best business case for hydrogen. So for the case study, Northwest Argentina lithium mine. So I'll keep the mine confidential. It's a beautiful area. Obviously, you can see on the left, the right-hand side of the screen, the beautiful pictures of where the drilling is being done. It's a greenfield mine. So we can plan this mine to be ready and optimal to integrate renewable power. So beautiful lake just next to the drilling locations, and in the background you see the mountains with the snow. The mine has 40 years life of mine, so you would think this is ideal for integrating renewable power. The solar resource is extraordinary, and the mine has enough lithium for 40 years. It's at very high elevation, 3,800 meters, so that doesn't favor wind power. Argentina is a great place for wind power, but in high elevation, the air density being low, very difficult to make wind turbine work. But for solar, no problem on that aspect. Natural gas is available at the site. The price of natural gas is good. So to integrate a solar project there is a challenge. One of the things is lithium mine requires a lot of steam, and the steam is produced by recuperating the heat from the natural gas generators. And so any solar power coming in reduce the amount of gensets and reduce the amount of steam being generated. So that doesn't help. So in short, that mine has a load of 17 megawatt electrical and also a 17 megawatt thermal to produce the steam. The entire steam comes from the gensets. So that implies that solar power will reduce the natural gas consumption required to produce electricity, but will also require additional natural gas to compensate for the steam production. So that's one big challenge that we have to integrate renewable power there. So in short, we sized the project. This is just a case study. We looked at, let's say we want to displace 30% of natural gas. So we sized the project at 16 megawatt, which gives us about 5 megawatt average, which is about 30% of the load being met in average by the solar farm. That reduced the natural gas consumption by 30%. But because we reduced the amount of heat being generated by the gensets, we need to compensate by using natural gas to produce more steam. So we net out to 16% only of reduction of natural gas. So their business case has just gone down by a factor of 2 just because of the process that we need to respect. We integrate a 10 megawatt battery to ensure grid stability, to smooth out solar power variations, but also since we're dealing with natural gas engines, which are slower to ramp up and ramp down, and also slower to start in the 5 to 10 minutes, we need energy storage to smooth out the load variation, the solar power variations, and whenever there's a big solar drop, the battery has to support the grid the time it takes to start a genset or mini genset in some cases. So we look at, since it's a greenfield project, we would look at, it'd be nice to have a combination of diesel gensets and natural gas gensets. The diesel gensets can start within a minute, so very, very good for grid stability, and also very good in ramping out and ramping down. Also, we can look at dual fuel gensets. They would operate mostly on natural gas, but whenever you need a peak or a big torque in your power production, you can inject automatically diesel. So those are different optimal configuration you can look at. The other aspect is when you're thinking of integrating variable power, whether it's wind or solar, you would like your gensets to be able to vary on a wide range of operation, not just between 70% to 100% of its capacity factor, but maybe running from 30% to 100%, which you typically get from Wärtsilä engine, which are in operation in many large mines. So because it's a greenfield project, when you size your project, you need to think renewable right away before you buy your gensets. Otherwise, you will make it more difficult for you later on to integrate more renewable power. It will cost you more. Also for the steam generation, obviously, we've looked at all the alternatives. Some of those alternatives would be to have electrical boilers. Electrical boilers are near 100% efficiency, as opposed to natural gas boiler with 85% efficiency. So it looks like it's a great thing to do. But the electricity comes from gensets that are 40% efficient. So electrical boiler fed by the natural gas gensets are effectively only 40% efficient. Unless you use the solar for the electricity, but then you need more solar, and then it gets down to trade-offs and analysis of what's best for your project. In short, for this specific project, we've shown that adding natural gas boiler is the best business case. It would get better only if the natural gas price was higher, but in this case, it's not so high. So just one point about the importance of subsidies. Here I show the business case for the project, $30 million for 16 megawatt solar plant with a 10 megawatt battery. The price of natural gas is $9 a gigajoule, so similar to pricing in Australia. We've got the net saving of about 2.5 million US per year. So you see it takes about 11 to 12 years to break even, but the mine is 40 years long, but the asset is, let's say, about 30 years. So the business case, RRR of 11%, so it's a weak business case. If you add a subsidy of $5 million, well, the RRR goes to 17%, this project will go forward. So we need to find a subsidy to make this project work. So in short, just to show you that the solar resource in Argentina, in that particular place, is very, very good. You can build a solar farm to cost 5 cents a kilowatt hour. But when you put that same solar farm on a microgrid integrated into a mining operation, the hybrid solar project, including the additional boilers, including the battery, end up costing you 10.6 cents a kilowatt hour. So the price of solar doubles because you need to integrate it to the mine and consider its constraints. The mine cost in this case here, it's 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Obviously, when you say solar is at 5 and my mine cost is at 11, you want to do the study right away. But obviously, once you have looked at all the mine constraint and you see that the differential is 0.4 cents per kilowatt hour for the hybrid solar, then it's disappointing. But with a grant, you lower the price by another cent, and the business case become much better. So in short, it's very important to do your homework. When you look at alternative energy, look at all the constraints that you have to operate variable power to your mine operation, and do your calculation right to get your business correct. Thank you.
We have time for a couple of questions. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Michel.
Thank you.